Hey, you guys, this is Lisa Alexander with a deeper look into domestic violence. I'm super excited to have our next guest on, Listiner Inspires. She is amazing. This lady has stories to tell you guys. And I just want to say, if you need to hear something to inspire you, to motivate you, to show you that you can overcome and empower yourself, tune in. You do not want to miss us. Hey, Listiner, how are you?
Hello, I am good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad that you're here.
Me too.
Yay!
Yay!
I'm thankful that you accepted the invitation. I'm excited. I know that you have a story to tell, and you don't shy away from the transparency and the honesty of it all.
Yes.
And I respect and I appreciate that. So I'm excited to get going. Let's
Thank
get
you. Thank
started.
you.
Tell us
Thank you.
about. I know that you shared, beforehand that you've experienced trauma from a very young age, and
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that because you have your own organization and everything. So
Yes.
how did you get from that 2-year-old child to Listina Inspires? Let's go. Let's talk about it.
So first and foremost, I'm gonna just give credit where credit is due, and it's God all the way.
That's it.
Because without him, I would not be here. But I grew up in a very abusive home. My biological mother was abusive, both physically, sexually, emotionally, and mentally. And there's some things I remember, some things I don't. But what I do remember is always feeling always on edge, always like not wanting to go to sleep fully because I wasn't sure if I would get waking up in the middle of the night and get in trouble. I remember the refrigerator having locks on it because I was told I ate too much. Mind you, I'm a child, and I like to eat. I never felt comfortable. I didn't feel like I had a childhood. I remember being told at the age of 2 I was taken into the ER for severe burns from being burnt with scalding hot, like boiling water. And so the wonderful thing about the mind is sometimes to protect it, you don't remember all the gory details. And I thank God for that because what I do remember is enough, you know.
Right, right.
Um, and so I never told anybody about the abuse. As a child, I never disclosed what was going on with me. I was silent for so long. One, because I was afraid of my mother. Two, I had I call it Stockholm syndrome, where I did not want to like, I guess, portray her. She's my mother. This is, the woman that I was living with. And so I didn't want to portray her, so to speak. So I never really told anybody what was going on.
Mm.
But as I got older, puberty hit and my grades started to slip because, when puberty hits, emotions, all type of
Yeah.
things. And so I was just like, this is not normal. Like, this is not how I want to live. I want to have a childhood. I want to be able to do things that children are doing, and I started to retaliate. I started to fight back. I started to run away from home. I started to not, like, my grades started to slip from being all A's to like almost failing. I was hospitalized in several different mental hospitals for suicide, depression, and homicide because I had violent tendencies. Not so much not homicide. Let me rephrase that. I had violent tendencies. So I never talked, but if you did something that hurt me, then I would just lash out. And
Okay.
so eventually I was able to be placed in a group home at the age of like 13 going on to 14, which I would say to this day is a blessing in disguise because the last remainder years of my teenage years, I was actually I felt like I was able to be a child again.
Okay.
The group home system I was in was Lawrence Hall Youth Services. And so I was there from, like I said, from 13, 14 until I graduated high school.
Wow. Okay.
And I learned how to cook. I was able to like have meals, get seconds. I
Wow.
went to the movies, had bowling activities, all the things that I never had experienced as a child. And so my grades, I went to a therapeutic day school because due to everything that I went through, I also had social anxiety. So
Okay.
large school settings really, like, I remember being in high school freshman year. I went to Dunbar High School, and that year I never went to class. I was so overwhelmed by all of the people in the hallway, all the people in the classroom. Now I know what it is. Then I just didn't want to be around so many people.
Okay.
And so being in a therapeutic day school, a smaller setting, everyone is trained to deal with youth that have gone through trauma and abuse. So the
Right.
settings was different. Like if I had a meltdown, if I shut down, there was therapists on site, the teachers were trained, there was therapeutic art, therapeutic cooking, like everything was geared around
Wow.
you truly getting quote unquote a normal school life,
Yeah.
And I really thank them for allowing me to, I always say, to flourish. To this day, I'm still involved with them, like
That's
mentoring and
awesome.
coaching, and now I'm just being a part of some of the intricate details. And so that was my childhood in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome that you had that gift of those years of just really being a teenager.
Yes,
Yeah, that
yes,
was huge. What a gift. I love to hear that programs in schools like that really work, you know? That's a big
yes.
deal. Yeah, that's a big deal. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, no worries. Feel free to interrupt
Okay.
if you have something you want to say or a question. Um, so like I said, I thank God for that. And I mean, during the course of all of everything I was going through, I still remain creative. I taught myself how to play piano. I was in choir. I played the clarinet. I sketched. I wrote poems. So all of that stuff I did when I was younger, that I really believe helped with my sanity. It gave me an
Mm-hmm.
outlet to pour out since I did not verbalize what I was going through. I also talked to God. Even at a young age, I had a childlike relationship with God where I knew that there was something on the other side besides it. Like I just knew in my heart that this was not how my life was supposed to be forever.
Right, right.
And so I think that in itself is like that hope. Like as a child, knowing that this isn't the end of it. There's something on the
Mm,
other side. I just don't know what, but I'm gonna make it hopefully to get to the other side and see what it
yeah,
looks like.
yeah, that's
And
good.
so we fast forward to me as a young adult. So the funny thing about when you are, not the funny thing, but the thing about when you're abused from a young age, you repeat those cycles. So I
Mm,
remember on one instance I ran away to get from home and end up getting raped by like
mm,
7 to 10 young men at the age of 13. That started the cycle of me drinking, because I was like, okay,
mm,
I blame myself, because I feel like if I hadn't ran away, that wouldn't have happened to me. And so I blame myself for years that like I should have never run away. I should have stayed at home. And so I was in therapy for most of my life. And ironically enough, I never talked about the abuse of my mother until became an
mm,
adult. But being raped, I did talk about that. And I remember having a counseling session where the therapist was like, well, let's tell your mother what happened. And so I remember telling her, and she's like, well, it's your fault. You shouldn't have ran away. So
mhm.
that like solidified how I already felt. And so that just intensified the drinking that I did.
Yes. Wow.
So I spent a lot of my teenage adult years, um, so like drinking. Well, like if I was in social settings, I would just drink because I was uncomfortable.
Mm,
I was always just like on edge with anxiety. And so I became pregnant at like 17, my senior year of high school. I did graduate high school. I didn't really go to college because my attention span was like all over the place. I probably should have been diagnosed with ADD at that time, because like even now as a creative, I'll have 5 different things, 5 different screens, post-its, notebooks, and I'll just be doing my thing. But school was always
mm,
challenging for me. I was very intelligent. I still am, but it was just like that setting. So after I had my oldest son, I did decide to go back to school for hair, because I was always like I always had a side hustle. I knew that no one else was gonna take care of me. The one thing I learned from living with my mother is that I had to fend for myself. So I always had 1 or 2 jobs, whether I was like doing hair or some unfortunate legal activities. I made sure that I had money in my pocket just in case something went wrong. So when I had my son, I went to school, I was working, I was doing little side hustles of hair and all that. And at that time, I met my my last 2 children's father. And so we were friends, and I was just like, oh my God, I found someone that loves me for me, because I had been in, abusive relationship before then. And
mhm.
I was like, I can't do this. Like after I had my son, ended up like not being with my son's father. We were both teenagers, and it was just like one of those things. Like, I don't really like you. You were cute, but that's all, you know?
Right, right, right. Yeah.
and,
Right.
and so like now we have a baby, but I still don't like you. Um, just
That's so funny. Yeah, it's true.
That's the truth,
Yeah,
to this day we're cordial, but that's the reality. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. Like,
it's funny.
but so I end up, just I'm meeting a gentleman. So I'm backtracking and going forth. So I met someone like right as I was about to be emancipated from the system into like adulthood. I was maybe 19 at the time, and this gentleman also grew up in the system, sort of. And so we started dating, and then it became toxic to the point where like I was on edge. And so I recognized those feelings again. I'm like, I can't do this. But I didn't have anywhere else to go until I did. And I was able to get out the situation by going to stay with my oldest son's grandmother, who allowed me to stay there, and I was able to break free. And so this is where I met my now ex-husband at the time. We were friends, and we started off as friends, and I genuinely truly loved him. I believe he did have some love for me, but we were young. And the one thing I always tell people is that by me not really having a mother and understanding the relationship, when I found someone that I felt like saw me and loved me, I identify with that person as almost like parental.
Okay.
When I look back and I think about it, because the level of hurt I went through with him emotionally equaled up to all the stuff that I went through with my mother in a certain extent, because I like let my guard down. I trusted him. I felt like, oh my goodness, someone actually loves me and sees me for where I am. He knew all my history. He knew, that I was on depression medicine, because I've always felt, that stigma with mental illness. I felt crazy. I was like, I can't share this with everybody. People are going to judge me. And so I felt like he saw me. But since we were both young, I know now that we were not ready to get married. But when he asked, I was like, yes. And the first few years was, fine until the infidelity started. And it was repeated throughout the entire marriage. And I didn't know how they say, a person only does what you allow them to do. Well, in this instance, I knew I deserved better, but I didn't know how to. Like, a part of me knew that this wasn't right, and a part of me knew that there was better. But the bigger part of me, the really broken parts of me, felt like, well, who else would want me? And those sometimes were the things that he would, bring up, like, he would say like, you're crazy, or no one else would want you because how you do it, boom, 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 bringing up my past. And I realized like, maybe I started to realize in my brokenness that maybe that's the case. And so I dealt with so much. Like, in hindsight, when I look back, I'm like, yeah, Listiner, you probably should have left a long time ago. But I didn't, because I feared being alone. I felt like no one would want me because I was so damaged and broken. And I'm like, well, this is as good as this gets. He really is a good man. He goes to work, take care of the kids. But the infidelity and the disease and everything that came along with it really broke down my self-esteem even further. Like, it was barely hanging on, but then it was just like, okay, whatever. And so I dealt with the not coming home at night, or the lies, and the leaving and coming back when you felt like it, until I couldn't. And I always tell people, because I have 3 boys, and I've raised them with morals and values and standards. But I always tell people that you can tell a child what you want them to do, but they watch what you're actually doing. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm showing you how to treat a lady. I'm teaching you how to cook, clean, be respectful, be somebody. But all the time they're watching their mother accept less than her worth. And my oldest at the time was like 14, 15. And I had taken their dad back for I don't know how many times this time. Like, he had maybe the 10th time, I don't know. And we had moved because I needed a new start. And I remember him telling me, Mom, why do you keep letting him come back and he keeps doing the same thing? And that broke me down to the point where I'm like, something has to change, because that means that I'm not doing a good job of hiding, or they're just seeing it because they're so smart. And it was a little bit of both, because I was so depressed to the point that all I could do was just get up, make sure they were good, go to work, come home, repeat. Like, there was literally no life for me. I was just so depressed. I mean, my last son, when I was pregnant with him, I cried the entire time I was pregnant. And he's such a blessed child, because he's so not sad. He's so happy. He's a hugger. Like, he's my little mini business partner. So that's a blessing. But from when my son said that, I was like, I need to do something. I didn't know what. I just knew that I couldn't keep letting them see their mother just accept less than her worth. Yet I'm keep pouring into them. And what was I pouring from? Because at that point I was empty.
No, that's
So
good. Yeah.
so I eventually left. I remember calling my best friend, my best sister friend, and I was like, I need to do what I need to do, and I'm scared because I've never like been on my own. I mean, I had a job and I could very well take care of me and the kids, but raising 3 young men by yourself is not easy. And so, and I was just like, I don't know what to do, but I'm gonna do it. And so I remember just saying, I telling him like, okay, this is the last time that you're gonna just lie and cheat. You have to go. With firm, like I had the bags by the door. I was firm about it, and he left, and I think he probably thought he was going to come back, but I was like, I have to do this for my children. And I never looked back after that. Like I filed for the divorce. I didn't call to like talk to him about it, because I'm like, he will probably try to talk me out of it. And I'm like, no, I can't keep this repeated cycle. There has to be something better. And so I filed for divorce. And I remember having a sense of relief, but also crying because I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like now I gotta start over, and it was really hard because like he wouldn't help. He just like he was vindictive at times, and so like I was getting disconnection notices and fighting notices, and it was like there was times where I fed the kids and I got what was left because I wanted to make sure like I wanted them to not know what the struggle was, because it was not their, like it had nothing to do with them. And so I wanted to make sure their routine was normal. But I remember sometimes catching a bus when it was like below 0 outside with my youngest son, just crying on a bus stop, like this has to get better, but thank God I made it. So I've been divorced 7 years now. But it doesn't stop there, because unfortunately everything that's had happened to me, I really didn't know who I was. I knew God created me for a reason, but I didn't know where to begin to even find that. And so I just began to not value myself, where I would just sleep around. I just like, I'm never going to love again. I'm not going to give my heart to anyone. So I'm just going to have open relationships with people. And in hindsight, that was the dumbest thing I ever said. But I'm just being honest. Like that did more emotional damage to me, because deep down inside, God created us to be loved and to give love. And so I felt like I was giving love to my children, but I was not allowing myself to be loved. So then, how am I loving if I'm not being able to be loved? And so
that's good.
I struggled with that for up until probably last year, to be honest, where I just settled for less, because I felt like, well, okay, this, and I just had this mindset where I wanted more, but I just didn't feel like I was valuable or worthy of that. But God, because I started to seek more, I started to be like, okay, Lord, I keep hearing about purpose, and I know there's more to my life. I need you to show me what that looks like. I need you to. I remember going to the lakefront, because I used to work close to the lakefront, and I would go there on lunch break. And I remember talking to God like, I want more for my life. I don't know what that looks like, so I need you to show me. And I was just like, I will do whatever you want me to do. But I'm not perfect. I might still drink. I just started going through the list of things that I knew that I could not just stop on my own, because I had done it so long, and those are my comfort, where I was like, I need you to help me. And so that was about, I want to say 4 years ago, perhaps. We're in 2020, so maybe 5 years ago. 2015, maybe around that time is when I had that conversation with God. And from that point, literally, I felt like God just shifted to the trajectory of my life, where he started to show me who I was. He started to like all the ideas, like, I'm still a writer. I was still writing and like writing out ideas, but he started to put people in my life that exposed me to like different things. Like I remember, and we're still friends to this day. Her name is Sarita Love. She has this company called Success Junkie, and her son and my son were on a football team. And I used to always see her in her car writing, reading a book during practice. I'm like, I like that, because that was me, nerd life, like, And so I walked up to her and I told her, we just had a conversation, and from there we became friends. But the things that she poured into me, like, you should do this and you got a story to tell, and it was just like boom, boom, boom. And I hired her as a business coach. She started to push me to, like, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, I just want to inspire people. I want to help them. And hence Listiner Inspires
Yeah,
was
that's where it
birthed.
came from.
That's what I'm like. I just want to
Wow.
inspire people. I would
Yeah.
send text messages to my friends with like inspirational quotes that I would think of for years, every morning, or how often. And I knew I realized that was my passion. I always did it. Even in my hard time, I had people that would call me just to be encouraged, and not realizing that was a gift. And so I turned that gift into my purpose, my passion, my business, where Listiner Inspires was birthed. And I started like making affirmation cards and bookmarks and all type of stuff in the beginning. And then I started networking, which was so hard because I have social anxiety. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to talk to these people. Can I just get them my business card? Like, And so it was challenging because I was like, what do I say? And I always, for about a year or two, I felt so unworthy in those spaces because of my background, my story, what I had gone through.
Right.
I kept asking God, like, I'm not supposed to be here. This is so uncomfortable. Why am like, I don't have the finances, I don't have the look, I don't have the degree. I just felt so like not worthy. And at the time I was actually back in school to be a psychologist. And I remember calling my godmom, oh, God bless her, I just love her so much, calling her and crying because I was like, I can't focus. Like, I had all these classes and it was so much. And she said, oh, baby, it's okay to step back and take a break. And I'm like, I don't want to feel like a quitter. Like, I had maybe a year or two left for like my associates, but it was like so like challenging for me just to stay in class, focus, and all that stuff. My mom, godmom was, I call her my mom. She was like, it's okay if you step back. It's fine. You're not a quitter. And so I remember just taking that break. I haven't been back since, and maybe I will in the future. But I realized that titles don't define you. Degrees don't define you. I've broken so many barriers just by being transparent and obedient to God. And so now I'm on this journey where not only am I inspiring people with speaking, but in my books, because I always wanted to be an author. But I've created a conference that can help other people. I use that platform to allow other speakers to come on and pour into people, because thank you.
Yeah, I want to ask you a couple questions though before you go into that. I want to kind of go back a little bit, because I think you made some really good points, and I'd like to kind of highlight some of those things. And you talked about how, first of all, when you talk about in your brokenness, you made decisions, and I think that's a really key point, because how important it is to heal, and so I know you touched on that. I don't know if you wanted to expound on that, but I thought that was really profound, because sometimes we find ourselves in a specific cycle that keeps us going and going. And so do you want to touch on that a little bit about making decisions in your brokenness?
Yes. So dealing with men that I didn't love, that we liked each other, but it was physical, always wanting more. Like, there was always a longing of, like, I had an idea of what I felt love should be like, or even a relationship where, like, going out on dates. Like, I think I probably went on maybe one date in my life, maybe twice. I mean, just like outside of being married at the time. As a single person, I wanted to maybe one or two, but there was always like I had friends with benefits. So, wherever I was, at the time, I had someone I would link up with just to fulfill a temporary physical, desire, not even a need, it was a desire, that really just left me more empty. I remember one time at the one, I guess you want to call it rendezvous. The next morning, I was just crying to God, like, I just want to be loved. I remember just crying. So I just want to be loved. Like, what does that feel like? I don't know. And I remember asking God, like, what is wrong with me? I keep repeating this cycle. And so I just remember just crying. And I was like, it was a struggle because, I would meet guys and they would see me, but I feel like whatever you put out there is what people see. And so
right.
since I wasn't healed at the time, I'm portraying like this brokenness. And so you kind of attract what you are. And so, and I was attracting guys that just wanted maybe a temporary fix. And even if some guys that came along that wanted more, I would be able to recognize it because I was still in a broken state. And so a lot of the decisions I made when it came to like the relationship parts were based off of brokenness, where I was still left feeling like more, or even holding on to false hope, like, okay, well, they say X, Y, and Z, so I'll just end up getting brokenhearted when they find out they're about to get married or they're in a relationship, which was from brokenness. And so those are some of the decisions that I'll look back like, yeah, those were not
because you
right.
were broken, you're attracting other brokenness or nothing that was whole because
Yes.
you're broken. Yeah, that's really good. Another thing you said was really good is about how your kids were watching you, especially raising young men. And for your child, your oldest son to say that to you, it's like, I think we always say, well, kids, they do what you do, or they don't listen to what you do. No, they don't listen to what you say. They do what you do. And if they mirror what they see in the home, and I think, well, we could tell them all day, don't do this, but if I'm doing that, how do we expect them to do anything different?
Exactly.
And I thought that was really good how you talked about your kids are watching what you do.
Yes.
Yeah, they hear what you say, but if you're doing the exact opposite of it, how are they supposed to know any different? Exactly. And I think too, especially raising, which I think is a good conversation to have with you too, is trying to break the cycle of violence. Especially raising young women, that we don't want to think that this is normal, or we don't even want to turn into abusers, and raising young men the same way.
Exactly.
If they see it in the home, like I know for my ex-husband, he saw it growing up. And so what we want to do is break the cycle. And I didn't want that for my son, Exactly. And so when you said that, it's really true. And this was, I just like to take all these notes. You said, okay, so a lot of times we talk to survivors all the time who, I don't know what to do. Where am I going to go? No one's going to want me. And you said to God, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to go do it anyway. You went out there not knowing what you were going to do. Mm-hmm. Afraid, scared, didn't know what you were going to do, but you chose to do it anyway. What gave you that strength to be able to do it anyway? Because I think our listeners need to hear that too. Because a lot of them just stay because they don't know what they're going to do. It's true. You don't know what you're going to do, but you chose to do it anyway. How did you find that strength?
I didn't want the cycle to be repeated. I knew that my biological mother was abused, and that's why she abused me. I knew that I allowed myself to be abused because that's all I knew. Right. Thank God I have never been an abuser, glory to God, because sometimes that can be repeated. Of course. But I worked extra hard not to. I mean, I was just like, I was even afraid to touch my children when they were little because I'm like, I don't want to do something that may harm them. So for me, I really thank God that my oldest son said that, because they are my world. Like even now, they get on my nerves with their grown self, but they're my babies. I still pray for them. I still talk to them. I still pour into them. And so that for me was like, I need to make them proud. I need to change it for them, because they're the future. And if I don't do it for them, then who will? I knew that their father wouldn't do it for them. So I'm like, I have to do something. And it's gonna be hard, but they have to know, like, no one in my family has done, the things that I've done so far. And I knew that I needed them to also do things that never been done before. So really, it was them. They saved my life and helped me to do better.
That's good. That's real good. So you did it for the kids. And you talked about starting over, how hard it was. It's hard. That's a fact. It's a fact. There's nothing else. It's not going to be easy starting over. And again, like you said, getting divorced and this whole, you were okay with getting divorced, but at the same time, it was the mourning. You had a relationship, you're married, you had kids, a family. And I think people like to skip the hard part.
Yeah, I would like to too.
Yeah, would you just love it for it to get better? But that's the growing process. That's where we grow, and that's where we learn from. So I thought that was really good for, if you're listening, just know that, it's going to be hard. That's a fact. It's going to be hard. But as she continued telling her story, she talks about how she has Listiner Inspires, and that she brings authors on, and she has used the gifts that God has given her. Even in her pain, she was using her gifts. And now she's using her gifts for something else. I did write something else down. How you said, how am I loving if I don't know how to be loved? And I thought that was really powerful too. Yeah, as mothers, we have this instinct, kind of love our children. But can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I really liked it, and I thought that it was just really profound. Like you said, how am I loving if I haven't even allowed myself to receive healthy love?
So that's as healing is a journey, and which is the name of my conference, but this is also my concept. And that part of my life, God is still working on me with, because I'm the giver that will give till I have nothing else to give. But there's still a little part of me which comes through the spirit of rejection, which came through how my mom treated me, that still struggles with being loved. And when I say that, I believe I'm awesome, I'm amazing, I'm wonderful. Like my confidence has grown, but the loving part where you allow yourself to be vulnerable, where you allow yourself to be raw and exposed and open, is I would only give a little bit, and then I'm like, oh, okay, all these walls got to come back up. And so I'm learning that, like, this season of my life is where I'm telling God, like, I'm gonna be vulnerable even if it hurts, and I'm gonna trust you. And so it starts with trusting God and seeing God as Abba, as Father, having this personal relationship with Christ, because without that, I would not be here. And so learning to trust him and seeing me through his eyes, right? And so I remember one time just sitting there thinking about all the stuff I've done, even up until now, like, oh my God, like, I'm just such a flawed human. And I remember hearing in my spirit, like, but I still love you. And I just started crying, because that's like unconditional love, right there.
Period. Yeah.
And I was just like crying, like, oh my God, like, well, how? Like, I mean, I want to cry now just thinking about the fact that that's love right there. That's love. So that's my struggle still, but I'm open to walk through on that struggle, because I know I desire love again. I know I desire to be remarried again and to experience that. And I don't want to have any like extra pieces of brokenness. Like I mean, there will always be some residualness of what I've gone through, because if you live long enough, you will experience stuff. But I don't want to bring anything into any relationship that is only gonna destroy it. And so I'm willing to lay before God, like, and tell God, like, I'm not strong. Like, I don't want to be strong this season. I'm gonna be vulnerable, even if it hurts. I'm learning to lean on my support system, and I have great people in my life. But I'm that person, like, I'm gonna get it done, and I'm not gonna call nobody until my left leg about to fall off. Like,
Yeah.
And so I'm being taught how to trust, love, being vulnerable, and knowing that if I listen to God and discernment, he's not going to put me in spaces that I was in before, because I've come out of that pattern, so to speak. Because God will show you, like, that's not for you, even when you want it to be for, like, I have a whole checklist, and then God be like, nah. Nope. And I'm stubborn. I'll be like, but you saw this checklist. He matched that checklist. And God be like, he believe in you and he prayed.
Yeah.
Like, but no, exactly. I'm like, well, what he at then? Like,
Right. Could you send him?
Right. Like, today. Hello.
Yeah, that's good though.
But vulnerability is something that is one of the things that I'm working on with God to help me to be loved and not being so quick to put up walls. But if something looks suspicious, be like, okay, Lord, I need you to show me what that is.
Right. Reveal it to me.
Reveal it to me, and then let me move around, but not just put up walls, because when you put up walls, you can't receive anything at all.
Yeah, you're blocking others out and you're blocking yourself in. Yeah. It's true. It's true. All right, so tell us about Listiner Inspires. Tell us about the things that you do.
I'm just so awesome. So I am an author. I am a 4-time, soon to be 5th-time author. I have workshops that I do that are geared towards the 4 components of healing, which is forgiveness, overcoming fear, purpose and identity, dreams and goals. I also teach about how to effectively journal. I am a speaker as well, and my focus is on healing and recovery. I am an advocate for domestic violence, especially childhood trauma and abuse, because of what I've experienced. That's my passion. I am also the founder and creator of Healing is a Journey, which is a quarterly series of conferences that I've designed, that God has designed, that will help those who've gone through trauma and abuse start living their best healed life. And that was launched last year. So now we had a successful first year in Chicago. Now I'm taking the show on the road this year.
Right. Healing is a Journey. You guys can find in 4 different cities this year. Tell us, where are they?
March 21st is in Ohio. June 20th is Nashville, Tennessee. September 19th is in Atlanta, Georgia. And then I'm coming back home December 19th, Chicagoland area.
Quarterly, you guys have 4 different opportunities to experience Healing is a Journey. So tell us a little bit about Healing in the Journey. Why did you decide to make it into a conference? And now, last year you were in 1 place, now you're in 4. Why are you expanding it?
So I always say it was God's vision, because I really only wanted to be an author. I just wanted to write books and, let that touch the people. But I remember God saying, you have a voice, you need to use it. Mm-hmm. It's so profound when I say that now, because I did not use my voice at that time, right? When I was younger. And so being a speaker is important for me now, because I'm using my voice to break generational curses. And so Healing is a Journey actually started as, in my mind, I thought it was a 1-day conference, right? I was like, okay, Lord, you want me to do a conference? Great, 1 day. I had the speakers, I had the date. I was going to do it in December because that was the month that my biological mother passed away. And that month was the month that God had me forgive her. So that's when my healing started.
Wow.
But you know how they say, if you make plans, if you want to make God laugh, make plans.
Well, make plans.
He was like, no, go bigger. I was like, go bigger. Why? Like, I was like, no. Yeah. And so I remember talking to my editor at the time, who actually was my editor at the time, but she is now. And she has a publishing company, and she has a author literary network. And I remember talking to her, and I was like, I want to do these workshops in your bookstore. And I was breaking down the workshops, and she said, no, I hear God say those are going to be conferences quarterly. Ooh. I said, you sure you heard right?
Wow.
I'm that person. I'm like, let me go to the Lord myself and ask him. You heard wrong.
Right.
And so I went into my prayer time, and God just showed me that I had the material for the 4 books that I published now, to create the conferences. I had written down the order of how it should look, not knowing what it was supposed to be. He gave me the title after I said yes, because I was just like,
Look where obedience takes you.
Right. I was just calling it the Healing Conference, right?
Wow.
That's what I was calling it. And so he said, no, it needs to be quarterly, and you're going to have speakers, and you're going to go to different venues. And I said, well, you're going to give me some money too, right, God? Because you saw my account.
Right.
And God was just like, just go and do it. And I literally just went and did it. Like, I've never done a conference in my life. The people that he had me to reach out to, like, I knew them, so it wasn't like random strangers, but I was like, Lord, you want me to, they gonna think I'm okay, whatever. So I just reached out on faith. People were saying yes. I mean, the first conference I did was in March. I was one of the speakers, since it was my launch of it.
Right.
And so I had a panel of 6 amazing people. I mean, from a brand strategist to a marketing coach to pastors. I mean, I had amazing people that said yes. And it was just awesome. And it was a success. And I was just like, oh my God, I just did that. We just did that, guys. And so I just went on ahead and build out the rest of them, where I already had the dates, how now I have the dates, and I have the states. The location is private because God is he's still moving some things, moving pieces, but it's just my act of obedience and just literally taking one foot in front of each other. God has put the resources. I mean, I've been
always
to have sponsored venues. PNC sponsored last quarter, PNC Bank. I was just like, oh my God.
Wow, that's awesome.
And it's just acts of obedience. And so the reason why I'm taking on a role is because I always wanted to be global. And in my mind, I saw my books going global. I saw my books reaching the hearts of people in other countries. But I realized that healing is universal. When you're abused and you've gone through trauma, it does not care what you look like, how much money you have, your degrees, where you're from, what language you speak. The universal language of abuse and trauma is shame, silence, stigma, hopelessness, and rejection. And that's across the board anywhere you go. And I'm like, if I can make a difference in my hometown, because I always wanted to travel. I always wanted to go out and travel, but I knew God wanted me to first make a difference where I live. Because what's the point of going somewhere? It's like it's like a person who goes and talks to everybody, and then their kids, they talk to their kids.
Yeah.
You can't take care of the world and not take care of home.
Nope.
So I started in my hometown because I love Chi-Town. I love Chicago. I'm always, that's going to be no matter where I travel, Chicago will always be home. But last, okay, I was a successful first year. There's been like people enjoy it. I've heard rave reviews. I'm like, let me take this on the road. I've made connections in other cities, just networking and doing the book tours that I've done. And so I'm taking another leap of faith and leaving Chicago.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And like you said, healing is a universal language.
Yes.
Period. So that's awesome. I'm excited for you. So if you want to leave some pointers with the people that are listening today, what would you share with them? What would you say to them?
Well, I want to start off with the scripture, 1 Corinthians 13:13. 3 things will last forever: faith, hope, and love. The greatest of these is love. And why is that important? Is because a lot of times we don't understand the simple act of love is acknowledging someone's hurt. Because one thing that I've noticed just with dealing with people who've gone through abuse and trauma, and the people that maybe don't understand it, is that the idea that it's not your problem because it hasn't happened to you, or it's not happening in your neighborhood, however it may be, but it's everyone's problem. And if we look at it through the eyes of love and say, why are people acting out? Because of something that's happened to them.
Right.
And start really thinking about building a sense of community within our homes, within our churches, within our school systems that is geared towards not making people feel ashamed of what they've gone through and the residual side effects of maybe how they act or their mental illness, but making them feel loved.
That's good.
Don't judge them. Listen with open eyes and ears. Be empathetic. Those are the things that I feel like will help us as a society of people to really try to overcome the shame and the guilt, the rejection, all the things that comes with being abused and having experienced trauma.
That's so good. That's so good. And I love that you brought a Bible verse into it. Always.
Yes,
always appropriate. Always appropriate. And I think love is a universal language too, and we all deserve it,
Yes.
And thanks to God, it's not an earned thing. We're giving it free.
Yes.
So we should be willing to give it free as well. So thank you so much for being on here.
Can
you please tell the people how they can contact you?
So my books are on Amazon.com. If you type in Listiner, Listiner, Inspires, boom, they'll all pop up. Awesome. My conference is on Eventbrite.com. If you type in Healing is a Journey, it will pop up. You can actually get your early bird tickets now for whichever state you're interested in going to. My website is Listiner, Listiner, inspires.com. And then if you have any questions, if you want to, to share, or if you need an encouraging word, you can always email me at info@listinerinspires.com.
info@listinerinspires.com. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your gift with us. We appreciate you. Thank you for being amazing, and thank you for being obedient. When we're being obedient to God, things happen. And lives are changed. So thank you for sharing with us. We appreciate it. We'll see you later. You guys, thanks for tuning in into a deeper look into domestic violence with Lucy Nicole Alexander. We're so glad that you were here. Don't forget to subscribe and see us next time. We'll see you later.